to the weekly episode of the Freelancer Codex podcast. Your host, Steven, and co-hosts Mike, Devon, and JD are all set. Join us and tweet your questions at Freelancer Codex. Find us on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or send emails to freelancercodex@gmail.com. Strap into your javelins and let's drop in.
Welcome, Freelancers, to episode 72 of the Freelancer Codex podcast, the longest running Anthem podcast on the internet. I am your host, Steve, along with my three fantastic co-hosts, Mike, Devon, and JD. Guys, what is going on the week eve of the release of Anthem? How are you guys doing?
The week eve.
I am pretty stoked. So, lots of things are going on in my life, but yeah, I'm excited for next week. So,
Mike, you don't sound too excited. You must have had a day.
I tend to always have days, and sometimes it's frustrating, and sometimes days are good. But Anthem is on the horizon, along with the Shaper Storm. I hope they bring them back and call them Shaper Storms. No, I'm excited. I'm tired. We were at soccer practice tonight because that's starting up here, and soccer practice is always fun because little kids, soccer balls, sitting in uncomfortable bleachers. But whatever, it's all good.
Sounds like a fantastic time. JD, how are you doing?
Doing just fine. I'm really enjoying my new job. Really excited to see the students excited to learn. I did not think I would be this good at it, and I could not be happier. So,
all right. I'm not tooting your own horn there then, JD, right? But hey, if you're good at something, you're good at something. So guys, if you can believe this or not, there's only 14 days till actual launch of Anthem proper. February 22nd is going to be here soon. It's only 14 days. It is only 7 days. This time next week, the game will be live if you have Origin Access Premier.
This time next week, Devon will be done with the crit path, and he will be level 30, and he will be going, what's next? What do I do now?
I guess you'll have the show to record afterwards, which is fine after you play that time, because it goes live Thursday at 3:30, correct?
3:30
p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
That's what I understand.
So, I mean, it's like well, I don't even know what to say because we've gone this far. Like, we started a podcast from EA, from E3 back in 2017 based off of 6 minutes.
We started a podcast 3 years ago.
Not that long.
It does feel
off of
like
6 minutes and numerous. We've had guests, we've had devs, we've had game changers, we've had an Anthem Premier League. We've had let's not go out too far. We've had a great run. Not that it's over, but it's been a lot. I mean, looking in the rearview mirror, it's been tons of stuff. I don't know if anything happened from like our first episode. Has it transferred into the game that we know of?
I don't even remember the
that we speculated.
So I actually went back to listen to the first episode, and
that was fun. I bet that was fun.
Well, I stopped because the way we were recording things was all wrong because we were just learning how to do a podcast.
Do you remember when we were clapping all the time?
I do remember the clapping. Yes, I remember how much grief you guys gave me. But that's why we started so long ago, so we could figure this stuff out. So when we get
remember how quiet I was that first episode?
So when we get to episode 73, we know exactly what we were doing, and we could record an episode. We could stream it on Mixer and hang out with the chat and just be ready to go.
Do we know what we're doing?
We don't know what we're doing, but I think that's the point. So
that's the point, to not know what we're doing.
Next week, what are we doing? Are we taking a break to record, or are we playing? I don't know what we're doing. Are we?
No, I think we record. We have to record.
We do. We will service our loyal listener and make sure that person gets the content that they are expecting from the Freelancer Codex. We will, Devon, have to have you take a break from Anthem. You'll have to, because batteries run out. So you'll have to take a break.
Plugged in. I don't know how to use batteries. See,
I don't think there's
no
any
batteries in here.
Anyway. All right, so guys, bring it all back in, talking about Anthem. We can reminisce later. When we do episode 100, we'll reminisce about all the fun times we had having all the... I think we're the podcast that has had the most developer interviews on it. We have the trifecta. We've got the trinity of developers. We got John, Mike, and Ben. trying to get a bunch of more people scheduled to come on the show. So that'll be really exciting. But I want to know, now that we have gone through the VIP demo, we've gone through the open demo, what was your guys' favorite part about the demo? Starting with you, Devon.
So my favorite part, I mean, it's a lot of fun, but I really just enjoyed playing with community members that we've been chatting to for so long, and then also some of my friends that I have basically been kind of dragging along the Anthem path. They're just, out there. They don't really pay attention to much, and they're like, just wait for me to tell them information, or like they can't find stuff on their own, I guess. I don't know.
Those are not the friends
lazy.
you want to keep around, Devon.
They don't know how Google works.
Yeah. But so, I mean, it was just cool just to be like, oh man, all these things that are happening, because I've been talking to them about it for so long, and now I got to play it with them and share that experience with them, and listen to their excitement about playing the game, and just they're like, oh wow, okay, this is really fun. This is a lot of fun. I'm super excited for it, and because I mean, it was kind of a bummer when they played the VIP demo. Most of my friends were on Xbox, and they had a really rough go of it, so they were pretty bummed out that first weekend. And,
do you feel do you feel ownership that, you know what, if this game isn't good, I've pretty much lied to my friends for the last year and a half?
I do feel a little bit like that's why I was pretty sad about they didn't have a good time with the VIP. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, that's not my fault. But I'm so invested in Anthem, with everything that we've been doing for years now, that it's like I feel kind of partial ownership when I talk to my friends and they have a rough go of it, and even our community members when they have a hard time. It's just like, oh man, I wish you could have as good a time as I mean, PC for us worked really great and didn't have very many issues, but they definitely had a lot of issues on the Xbox, and so I felt really bad, for our community members and my friends who had a tough time. And I was just like, oh, just hold on, it'll get better, I promise. I hope my promises are good, But yeah, that's just my favorite part. I mean, the game is fun. It's great. It's a ton of fun to play. It's really entertaining. I played over 40 hours, I think, something around there in the demo. So
that's a lot of time.
Xbox and PC, and I had a great time. I didn't want to stop playing, so I was actually pretty sad when I was like, all right, this is my last half hour. I gotta log off now.
Understand. JD, what was your favorite part of the two demos?
Oh, I mean, it's probably the combat, the fighting. It's using your abilities, flying, dodging attacks, firing back. The combat is just so satisfying in the game, and I mean, even going back and watching the APL stream was, we were focused way too much on killing ads, but my brother and I, even my brother-in-law and I, like we loved how good the combat felt, and that was probably the best part, because it was like that kind of like challenging fight where it's like it could like beat you at any moment, and if you let off a little bit, but if you just really kept on it, like it would, like you could beat it. I like that balance. It's good fights. I like it.
Very cool. Very cool. Mike, did you have a very specific favorite part of the demos?
I don't think I had a specific. Well, I did. I think it was and going in and just like shooting all the stuff. I think one of the things that because I'm a gun guy, and looking at the gun models, I wasn't like super thrilled with what the gun models look like, and just the way that they look. But then you get in game and you get to shoot them, and I was blown away, no pun intended, by the sound of the guns, and that like really sold me on it. Yeah, right. Because it really sounded like your rounds were hitting something. It felt like there was some weight to them when you got to fly, when you got to handle them and hold them, and just playing with the Ranger. I mean, that's the way to go, right? And so just that sweet Ranger loadout and just wrecking all the things and shooting all the mans in the face. It was just fun to be in a world. It was fun to traverse the world and explore it. However much we could. It was just fun to be in. I caught some screenshots from the vistas and some of some of the what is it called? Animals, livestock.
The
Some of the
flora and fauna.
Yeah, some of the animal. Well,
The
yeah, some of the
livestock.
animals in the world. Yeah.
Wildlife.
The
So
rabbits.
so it was cool. It was cool. Well, no,
So-
not so much rabbits, but I mean, I guess I can't point to. Sorry, I'm rambling. I guess I can't point to one thing that is like, yeah, that's why. I think it's all encompassing all together. The experience playing with you guys was fun. Playing with people, just randos out in the world. I didn't have a chance to see anybody like online that I knew from Discord or anything, but it was fun just to be in the community and play. It was fun to just have a controller in your hands and know that you were controlling the person on the other side. I enjoyed that.
Were you getting teary-eyed?
That's what I was like, right, he's
Did your
about to
voice
cry right
crack?
now.
Are
I
you
was-
getting emotional?
I was choking. I appreciate your concern. You
I
guys,
was
if
concerned.
this wasn't a PG show, man, I'd be saying words that
It's like
that you shouldn't
PG-13.
say.
I mean,
Well,
we
still,
don't bleep that many bad words. So
Still.
going back to the guns, like what is it about the guns that make it feel lackluster to you? Because I have the same feeling that looking at them through the menus, they like,
don't
they don't
pop.
stand out.
They
from,
don't.
like-
They and it's weird, Steve. They feel unfinished. A lot of the guns have like this tarp thing buckled down over them.
Right.
And I almost thought to myself, like, are they hiding something they didn't finish? But then I also think to myself, well, what's the utility of it? Why in this world of Anthem do I need a tarp over my whirlwind?
like a fabric cover over it.
Yeah, and
I mean,
it was weird, and I didn't care much for that model. There were a few heavy pistols that had a suppressor on the end and looked neat and looked cool. But then like some of the auto rifles and stuff that just ended up looking like a sniper, like they all kind of seem to look alike.
There's not that
Um,
many models, right, for all the weapons that we saw, at least in the
Two.
demo. Yeah, I
Then we
mean,
have two for each. So you're right, Devon. And again, I'm trying to temper this and say, okay, well maybe Masterwork stuff
maybe you
will
get the
look
named
different.
weapons later. That, I mean, they have names on the lower stuff we played, but maybe the higher end, top tier, legendary type stuff will be unique. I mean, that's I
Yeah.
think what we were all hoping for, right? Was more unique
Right.
weapon variants or variations,
Right.
and not just tarp here or silencer or suppressor, whatever, and a little scope here and there, but it's all the same model.
I didn't see any scopes. I don't even think I don't think the whirlwinds. I don't think the snipers had scopes.
No,
The,
Go
the
back-
snipers
go
did
back
have
a couple
scopes.
of-
Well, you
couple of
looked
assault
down a
rifles had
scope, but I don't remember seeing one. Sorry, JD.
No, there were a couple of assault rifles and marksman rifles with scopes because I remember thinking that I remember seeing one and it had the scope on it, but when you go to zoom in, it still went over the shoulder, and I was like,
Funny
well, that's
shit.
weird. But
Yeah, CF Bunny says that the rocket launcher, the Devastator sniper rifle, I mean,
It's
a
already
rocket
been
launcher,
nerfed.
right? With the amount of power that they have. But I think the big thing that the Anthem weapons they need to be recognizable. If you have someone
Mhm.
cosplay and build a weapon from Anthem, it needs to be immediately recognizable as a
Yeah.
weapon from Anthem. And I don't think they have anything like that yet. And
Not
that's
that
very
we've seen.
possible. And it's very possible because this is a third-person game. You're just not going to have that connection with the weapons like you do in a first-person game. So, I mean, maybe that's not going to be there. I think one thing that might be able to help in the UI, if you go to choose a weapon, I think it would be cool if you had like a 3D view of the weapon that you could actually like move around it. I mean, that doesn't
Rotate.
do too much for the gameplay.
There
But
there is kind of a 3D option when you're in the forge. You spin around your javelin and your weapons are right there on the side.
But it
That's
doesn't really
true.
spin it by
But it's
itself,
not.
But
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying.
yeah,
It just doesn't. I mean, it seems like, and I think this is the point. It seems like the focus on Anthem isn't guns, the mode of killing stuff. It's all about your grenade, your ability, and your support systems, which makes sense because that's what the game is built for. I think I remember reading somewhere. I think it might have been on Twitter. Someone was asking, "Are there going to be more ammo drops?" Because I didn't seem to get very many ammo drops in the world, and I ran out of ammo a lot. And I thought to myself, "Well, yeah, you ran out of ammo a lot, but how quick did your wrist rocket recharge?" I mean, it was like 2.5 seconds. Like that's what they want us blowing the things up with. and you can get ammo drops from that. Ammo drops are a tertiary thing, and I think for me that's going to be hard to develop in my style
Yeah, well, you're just so
and how the
used to it,
game
right?
is supposed to be played. Exactly. Well, because I'm used to using my grenades as I'm reloading, or using my melee as I'm reloading. My guns were primary,
Yeah.
and in Anthem, it's flopped.
Well, and it's only going to get worse the harder the difficulties we go up. Like they've just talked about the Grandmaster difficulties. You're going to need to really pay attention to your team, and what they have, loadout wise. So you have a good balance with combos and everything else, and that's going to be really important. And those weapons, I mean, that's going to be the hard part of balancing those weapons, because we said the Devastator, sniper rifle / rocket launcher was super overpowered on hard mode, but when you get to Grandmaster difficulty, I mean, how powerful is that going to be? And I asked him about that, or kind of basically responded to Ben when he basically said, yeah, they're kind of nerfing that already. It's like, well, I was like, well, hold on. It's like lower difficulty, sure, it's super overpowered, but in the harder difficulties, what are your weapons going to be valuable at all? Are they going, and so that's the thing that they really have to balance for, because they have the difficulty levels, and the variations that they have. I think is going to be troubling for them of balancing the lower difficulties for people who just play on those, and for the hardcore that are going to be trying to push Grandmaster 2 and 3. It's going to be a lot about the abilities, but those weapons still need to be of value because you have to use them. So.
Yeah, I think that they have to focus on the weapons eventually, and maybe the cosmetic appearance of the weapon is never a focus for them. That's fine, but I mean, it really is the connection between.
I'm gonna jump here and say, with as much cosmetic focus as we're putting on our javelins, I mean that has to bleed over, even if they just apply primary and secondary colors to the weapons that we choose. I mean, we don't need to necessarily mod out, as like in something like the Division, but being able to change the colors. I mean, you would think that would have been put in already if that was a focus. And unfortunately, I think they're saying that it isn't a focus. And that's, again, for me, that's kind of sad, because I like the way guns look, and I like having them have utility and making them look like they have utility. But I was underwhelmed at the guns.
Yeah, and it's something that hopefully they can work out in the future. All right, so real quick, let's get into our actual topic. I mean, I think talking about the guns is important, because that's one of the connections we're going to have between us, the controller, and our javelin. I mean, you're pushing right trigger a lot to get that button, to get those shots off. So real quick, if anyone is listening to the podcast, we really appreciate all the listeners, everyone that's been sharing it on Twitter, sharing it with your friends. And it helps a ton. And we've seen huge growth in the numbers of people that have been downloading the podcast. So we really appreciate everyone. And we like to ask you, if you have a second, or if you're thinking about it, go onto iTunes, give us a rating, preferably 5-star. I mean, if you're going to give us a 4-star rating, just forget about it. Just throw in the 5-star there, and help offset a bunch of those people that gave us 1-star reviews and they didn't even leave a message. It's just like 1-star review. I guess it's people that don't like fun. It's probably people that are like pro Division, pro.
We seriously
Destiny,
got 1-star reviews.
I mean, it's the internet, so it happens. People are out there. Some people don't like the sound of my voice. I understand. That's fine. My wife doesn't very much, but you just got to roll with that kind of stuff. So go give us a 5-star review. It helps the podcast a lot. So you guys go do what you do. But real quick, Devon, I want you to tell us about the Anthem Premier League, because we had a pretty cool event that we put on last weekend during the open demo. And this is probably why I didn't get 40 hours of playtime like Devon did. I was like busy preparing this stupid thing. It wasn't stupid. It was a lot of fun. But Devon, break it down for us. Anthem Premier League.
Yeah, so Anthem Premier League is something we kind of been talking about for a while, and we came up with. Steven kind of spearheaded a lot of the work there. He's the one behind the computer. We're basically doing stronghold runs for time, right? So if you've tuned in last week, you saw 5 teams go at it to see who could have the fastest run in the stronghold in the demo. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool just to see people's different strategies going through, and whittled it down to the very end. That last match,
Oh man, that was crazy.
Lupo and his team just lost it right at the end. It's a heartbreaking loss for them, I'm sure. They lost the sponsorship and no, just kidding.
I know all the sponsorships Lupo
Lost.
lost. Man.
But no, it's really
man.
exciting. It was a lot of fun, especially. I mean, Mike and I had a good time. At first, I was like, why would I want to be talking about somebody else playing the game when I could be playing the game? But it was actually a lot of fun, and it was really exciting just to see what they're gonna do. And it was, especially the last match was super intense. Of like, okay,
Yeah, it
what's
was.
gonna happen? They're head to head. They're going through all these things. What are they gonna do? They both performed really good in the semifinals, and so it's definitely something fun, and I look forward to adding more stuff to that in the future.
JD, as someone that participated running a team, like, what was the different feeling of knowing that people were watching, you're in a race? I mean, how did that affect you? I mean, we saw how it affected you during the second match, but like, what were your overall thoughts on it?
So it was a lot of fun to participate. I set out with the goal of at least beating one team, and we accomplished that.
Kegs.
But I definitely feel like had we been a little bit more prepared and we had more time to. I see that my Discord thing is red right now, so I don't know how well this is coming across.
We hear you.
We can hear
But,
you just fine.
I know that if we had more time to prepare.
And he just got.
And he's gone.
And he's gone now.
Hey, there he is.
I think
Okay.
what JD wanted to say is if that they killed the boss faster than the other team, they would have won.
It's an astute observation.
Maybe video's
Right,
not working
JD?
for you today, JD. Maybe you just switch to audio.
Full audio.
Well,
No, I was gonna say that if I had managed to get my team together sooner and get a little bit more practice in, I'm sure we would have eventually come up with better strategies to cut down our time. But it was absolute. We just got like wiped so bad with the second round because what was it? Bags team.
They had
Like just cut our time
the
in
run
half,
of the
and
day,
that was like
13
a very
minutes
sobering
and 29
experience.
seconds.
So, but I had a
And-
lot
and
of fun. I showed the stream to my family. My family enjoyed it. I love
What
the
is
commentary
this
from Mike and
here,
Devon.
Sonny? Are you in this thing?
and granted, I mean, with this event, we ran it during the open demo. We had Bags and Lupo, who are streamers, so they had a lot of time to get in there, practice, and do a bunch of runs. I mean, this is kind of what they do. They play games. They do it while people are watching, so they had a pretty good advantage because they were able to get tons of game time in. Lupo said they did a crazy amount of runs to prepare for it, and it was really fun. We're going to open this up when the game goes live to our community and anyone else that wants to participate. So it's not just going to be invite only. I'm sure we'll do some events that are like that, but this, like, APL really is about bringing the community together and doing something fun like this, giving people the opportunity to do a race and know what that feels like. I mean, I watch a lot of esports. I mean, and to have that feeling of, man, I wonder what it's like to be competing at that high of a level. And APL probably isn't going to be the highest level. I hope that other people pick up, on the idea and do their own events. Because the more events that they have around Anthem, I think the developers are really going to be able to see what people want and what people need. Like they talked about leaderboards coming up. I would love to have a timer in the game, like at the end of the mission screen that tells you how long you completed the mission, how long it took you to do the stronghold. That'd be an awesome thing to have because then you can create those leaderboards super easy for everyone to watch. So that's one of the things that I really want to see. So it was a really good event. I had a lot of fun doing it. You guys did a great job. So enough about that. Let's move on to something that just dropped. Well, I think this dropped yesterday. So Ben Irving threw out the roadmap for post-launch before the game is even live. And I know a lot of games right now, live service games, are putting out roadmaps, letting people know what's coming up because that's always on our mind. We're always thinking, okay, when I'm done, what am I going to do next? What is going to keep me coming back to the game? So let's go through this really quick. This roadmap is called it's the gameplay calendar, and so it marks launch as February 22nd, 2019, and then Act 1, it says March of 2019. Act 1 called Echoes of Reality. So that is the name of our first content drop. And underneath that, it doesn't really, I mean, it says March 2019. I'm guessing this is probably going to be late March.
Yeah.
Is what I'm guessing. You guys, I mean, there's no way that they're going to release this the beginning of March and only have, what, 1.5 weeks
Well,
of the game being released before they drop new content?
I don't know. Based on the other slide they show where they split it, each, act into 3 different parts where they have the evolving world, update 2, stronger together, update 3, the cataclysm. So I don't think everything that's coming in Act 1 is going to come all at one time. So I think, they could drop, a couple things right at the beginning of March, where say they have a couple new missions or something like that, and then the second thing looks like there's going to be a new stronghold, and then the third thing probably at the end of the month or a little bit later is probably going to be the cataclysm. So there's going to be a lot of people, level 30 by then, even filthy casuals, and so that they can jump in and play.
Filthy casuals.
I'm super excited to see, what that's about, because what we experienced in the demo was just a precursor for the cataclysms, and was really nothing compared to what they're going to be like. So,
right? Because underneath the
said.
calendar. Underneath the calendar, it gave us a couple of things that are coming. So under update number 1, it says evolving world. And then update number 2 is stronger together. And like Devon said, update 3 cataclysm. So these are the things that are listed under Act 1 update. It says there's going to be new events. There's going to be quality of life changes, which is interesting because we don't need, I guess we do know what some of those changes need to be after playing the demo.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard because we don't even know what has been changed from the demo build to the retail build. So after that, we're going to have new rewards. I'm guessing new weapons, new decals, stuff like that. Then we're going to have an expanded progression system.
Nope, not new javelin.
You don't think?
I mean, if they did a new javelin after the end of each act, I don't see why not. I mean,
could that be considered a reward though? Probably rewards are what you said: decals, weapons, loot of some. Well, but then new Strider, like Strider 2.0.
I mean, new Striders and stuff like that would be cool to decorate your Strider.
Customizable Striders.
Yeah,
we still haven't even gotten inside the Strider, so we don't know if that's been.
I was on top of it a lot.
Floor or, like.
Yeah, we don't know if you can get inside there. So I know on Twitter, Mark Dara said that if they do javelin, you'll probably be able to buy the new javelins instead of like being an open reward for a mission or something. So they have expanded progression system. I don't know what this means. I don't know if this is going to be like Paragon points at the end of the leveling system. I don't know if this means they're going to add the pilot skill tree into the game. Because we know from Reddit posts that has been removed from the game because it wasn't interesting enough. I think, Devon, what exactly did they say in the Reddit comment about the
basically they had to make the pilot skills really plain because they had to be javelin agnostic, right? So they couldn't focus on just one javelin. So all their abilities were like greater health, more health pickup or ammo pickup or like flight time, that kind of stuff. Which we kind of talked about this before, and I was like, oh man, I was, knew those things were coming, but now that they're components, because they took the pilot skill tree and took the most interesting things and put them as components. And so what they've told us is you have 10 components that are unique to each javelin, and then 12 to 13 components that are, you can use on any javelin, which is like, the flight time and stuff. And we saw some of those in the demo. But I never used them because I'm like, oh, why would I want to waste a slot on this when it's just going to be on the pilot skill tree? Because I was still anticipating it to be on the pilot skill tree. So like I was thinking the whole time, I was like, man, this is a stupid component because it's of no value. But now
shard this.
Yeah, but now it's like, okay, you have to use those if you want the longer time, or just you have to learn how to use your javelin better and to do those kind of things. But it was interesting. They basically just said they ran out of time. And I think really, they're coming down into crunch. They didn't want to delay the game. They never said they delayed it in the first place, but, it's whatever. I mean, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it always happens when they get near the end. You have to decide what's going to make it into the final game, and things get cut. And at least the hope is that they'll be able to rework that sometime with more interesting pilot skills. And so really there's no they say there's still RPG because you can make your own builds, but there's not really traditional RPG with any kind of skill tree where you select a path and build out your character that way. And that was really, I mean, the pilot skill tree was really, I mean, on the low end of, a skill tree. So
Well, we can't even talk about it because it was in the alpha where we got to
Yeah.
experience that. And I don't think anyone's talked about it since. I mean, when you talk about Grandmaster 3, like you can't afford to put a component on that increases your swim time if you're pushing Grandmaster 3, right?
Yeah. No.
Right.
You got to be able to trick out all those stats to be beneficial to
Build
what you're
focused.
actually doing.
Yep.
So
I mean, I guess you could
at
if
that point
it's-
you're min-maxing.
Yeah, if it's about
you're min-max-
hovering more or something like that, because that flight time will increase that, but then it's like you have to focus your build. They did say this was increase the amount of build diversity that you can have, but it's really just kind of forced diversity because, like, if you want that now, you have to put it in your components, which, it's just, I mean, you just have to, like, I said earlier in our conversations, I just have to wrap my mind around it. And like, okay, that's not the way we're playing anymore, and so I have to just get over it and move on. But at least they did say, when you put on one of those components, it is the best version of it. So like the maxed out, like I guess he said there was 5 points, so I can say that because he put it on Reddit to put into those pilot skills. So it was the maxed pilot skill. So if you put that component in, it'll have the maxed version of whatever that skill is, of what it would have been in the pilot skill tree.
Huh. And that's interesting because when we were talking about pilot skill and being able to increase flight time, being able to increase repair time, because in my mind, it was like, okay, I can put this on my pilot and then I can have my normal loadout. And if I want to just go exploring on, Grandmaster 1, I can increase this time. But now it's like, okay, I have to swap out all this gear and I won't be able to really increase my swim time or increase flight time because then, you're bringing your power level of your javelin down. And that's not something that you want out in the open world. You don't want to be being attacked or being one shot by turrets from across the map. Anyway, we'll see how that goes at launch. It'll be interesting to see. And then another thing they said during a bunch of the stuff they're going to add during Act 1 is we're going to have a new stronghold. So I guess that'll bring us up to 4 in March.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, Act 1 can start sometime in March and it can extend. Right. It can be, it can stand to March, April, May with the other updates that come with it. So, and then we're going to get new missions and we're going to get a new cataclysm. And this says, it says the cataclysm. It doesn't say new cataclysm. Sorry. Got a frog in my throat.
Steve's dying. Yeah,
I am dying. Like my throat's going. So
that during Act 1, we're going to get guilds and leaderboards.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be our stronghold leaderboard that Devon keeps crying about. I mean talking about. I meant talking. Sorry, Devon.
Mike.
I was talking to one of my kiddos over here. She was crying, and I had to tell her to stop crying. You're the best.
Because where else would you put a leaderboard in the game that we've seen?
You throw that junk in the fort, man. Put that thing in the fort.
No, I mean you put it in the fort, but what leaderboard? What would you be tracking for a leaderboard if it's not finishes and scores and stuff?
I have a feeling Grab It Kills is going to be on there. Yep, Rusted knew all about it. We're on the same page.
Grab it and go.
Grab It Kills and Flight Kill Shot. Good try. It's not going to happen, sir.
So overall thoughts on overall thoughts on the roadmap that we have right now, Devon.
Overall thoughts, I think it's good, to have the plan out there. People have been asking for it. It's the internet. They ask for it, and then they're like, oh, they're holding content back. It's like, look, all this stuff is free, besides, the cosmetics that are going to be the only way they're making money with microtransactions is cosmetics. And then if they eventually put out new javelins, like Mark Dara said, they're not just going to give that stuff away. I mean, you don't necessarily need it. As far as giving the stuff away, they want to keep everybody in the same world, so all the story content, all that stuff is going to be free. So people that are complaining, oh, they're holding it back, it's like, well, it's not costing you anything. But then they're saying, oh, well, you're not giving us the full game.
There were really people saying that they're holding content back.
Yes, yeah. They're like, they're holding back strongholds and all the missions and.
So I've stopped going to Reddit just because I want to get the experience of someone that isn't like trying to find all or doesn't want to go to a dark part of the internet. So I haven't gone to Reddit. So I assume that, for sure people are saying that you're holding back content. But this is like live service games have changed. This isn't like the days of, DLC on the Xbox 360.
Big packs that come out twice a year or something.
Right. I mean, this is so much different than that. I mean, this is the purpose of a live service game is to continue to give you content. Like at what point do you say, all right, this is all the content that was supposed to be at launch? If you're not in those meetings, I mean, these guys probably have what, year and a half planned out. They probably have more than a year and a half planned out. They probably have content, that's been in work for Act 1, most likely Act 2. I mean, this isn't something that is just like, well, I guess let's cut off, 3/4 of the game and we'll save this quarter to get more money. Because we know that, whatever. The internet's the internet, and people are going to have those ideas. But I mean, can we stop and just think for a second? And this isn't just me being like, "Oh, Anthem's so great, it's going to be amazing." Like, maybe the content drop doesn't work, but it's like we have to be realistic here, people. Like, they're not just cutting content because we're not paying for anything. Like, they're not charging us for it. So what are they withholding?
Yeah,
just from time. I guess.
You've got a real point there. I mean, if it was a situation where they were planning out content and they were holding it back and charging it, that's I don't like that. That would be something to start over. But the whole thing is, Destiny is a huge example of that. Like, what was it? They called them expansions, and they were basically comparable to basic DLC packs. And then their comets are the true expansions. But
well, I mean that's not really that's kind of apples to oranges, because you're talking about Destiny, which was like a forerunner into live service console gaming. Yeah. Well, I mean, we can't. It's not really direct comparison.
Yeah, but to go back to what I was saying, it's like they don't really have much of a leg to stand on here, because it's not like we have footage of this content that's already made. Like, these are plans. Probably aspects of these are going to change, and the thing is that it's free. Like, it's planned out, it's out there. They're planning on releasing it for free. It's not like they're like, we're telling you about the stuff that you can spend money on. It's like, no, these guys have made it very clear. BioWare has been very transparent about the fact that you will not have to pay for any of these expansions, any of these content drops, any of these updates. I don't know what people are getting at here, aside from just hating for the sake of having something to hate.
They're just uninformed, and they're just going off of what they think. And it's still the same thing. Like on Reddit, when I was responding to something about the missions or whatever, and Mike on Twitter had said, he had posted, kind of his checklist of these are all the things included with the full game, and the missions we played in the demo are optional missions that pertain to the critical path, but they're not the main missions. Like, people were thinking, oh, those are main missions, and that's all it is. And so they're like, there's only 9 missions, and no, those are optional. Those aren't part of the critical path. Those are just optional additional missions that pertain to the story of the critical path. So there's still the side missions, any of that kind of stuff, legendary contracts, the full critical path, more side missions, and there's a ton of stuff to do. People are just freaking out, trying to think that there's going to be nothing to do.
Mike, do you have overall impressions of our roadmap that we have here?
It's always nice to have a roadmap. You always know. You always like to have a plan. I'm curious. I'd be curious to be able to sit into a planning meeting and have them evaluating. Okay, this is what's really working. This isn't what's really working. Oh, maybe we need to roll these quality of life issues out sooner rather than later. It'd be interesting to see how dynamic this roadmap is, because again, what it really is, it's a life sustaining element of your live service game, right? Yeah. So if we finish Act 1, Part 1 too fast, and there's that lull time in between, that's when player base is going to drop off. That's when all the gross on the internet is going to happen. Everybody's going to hate your game until you hit the next part, and then So I think instead of having their player base go up and down, I'm assuming they're going to want to just kind of have it plateau/climb the entire time. And so if this roadmap is a dynamic document and can change, It's great. This is great for us to see that, yes, there is a plan. Unfortunately, we saw that with another game that had a plan, and a lot of us were burned by it. So they definitely have their work cut out for them. I'm not rooting against them. I would not want to root against Anthem. I enjoyed it with the times I got to play. I enjoyed it a ton, and it's going to be my new hobby for for the foreseeable future. All the way through Act 2. It says there's going to be an Act 2. I'm excited for it, and 3. Well, and I think for me, I think I'm kind of like Devon said. I'm kind of one of those hardcore casual gamers, if that makes any sense. So I'm not going to get too bent over stuff. The things that I get bent about, Devon and Steven will tell me that I'm angry about it. That's kind of how it goes in this community, in the little group that we have started. They're like, no, this isn't good, and this is why. And I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't good, guys.
You have to be angry about this.
Exactly. But I mean, and it's not a big thing. I like shooting stuff. I like flying around. I like playing games with my friends. And so far, Anthem has all that. So we'll see what happens.
And CF Bunny brings up an interesting point in the chat that this game doesn't have PvP to hold people over between those content droughts. So I don't think they can really afford to have like the 3-month content drought that other games can have that actually have PvP. Right. So I mean, I'm excited to see how long an act actually is, because after the first act is over, that'll kind of give us a baseline of what to expect in the future. So once we know how long this goes, we'll figure that out. So I just wanted to check in real quick. Now that we have a roadmap, Act 1, I'm guessing this is probably going to be like a 3-month roadmap that we have right now. So I wanted to check in some of the predictions that we made back in episode 67, okay? Because this is going to tell us, who's going to win our prediction game at the end of the year. So JD, these are mostly JDs. So JD said, I think the Anthem will have 3 to 4 story content updates in the first year. I'm guessing that, do you guys think at each update you're going to get some story content?
I'm guessing they'll have probably like 12 to 15 additional missions by the end of the year.
Yeah, because I'm guessing we probably get, like, for update number 1, Evolving World, how many missions do you think we're going to get with that? Do you think we get because we know that the legendary contract that we did during the open beta, or the open demo, sorry, it wasn't a beta, but it really was a beta. We had 3 separate missions in there just to complete that contract. Or was it a contract?
No, it wasn't a contract. That was just side missions. Those were like Matthias's side missions that'll be in the final game, because each of the
each of the factions
we're going to have 3 of those missions. So we've already played Matthias's missions. So that's going to be in there. There's 6 more additional missions that deal with that pertain to the critical path, So we'll play those missions again in the full game. So.
All right, then JD also predicted. I predict that major content updates will come every 2 to 3 months. So I'm guessing that's going to be pretty accurate. But we're probably going to have, probably every 2 to 3 months we get a new act. I would think they split it up into quarters. I mean, in movies, you split movies into 3 acts, right? You don't ever really have a 4th act unless you're watching something like Inception or Interstellar, and those movies never stop going on.
Or a couple things based on Shakespeare.
Yeah, and then Devon says first raid like post-launch content drops by the 9th of March. So are we gonna say Cataclysm is raid-like content?
Well, I mean,
because
that's
the
their
only thing
hardest
that we have to
content,
go on.
right? So I mean, it's their hardest and most challenging content, but I don't think it's going to be there by March 9th. Based on their roadmap, that's probably going to be the last thing of Act 1, so it's probably going to be a month or 2 out.
Well, I imagine that
you
we're
lost
going to
then?
get Cataclysm.
Yeah.
Did you lose, Devon? Can we give him minus points now?
Yeah, I'm guessing that we're going to have a Cataclysm for the base game that we buy. And then in Act 1, that's going to be a new Cataclysm that we're going to be getting.
Oh, you think?
Is that...
No.
Yeah,
No.
I would think that at the end of the game, we're going to have a Cataclysm.
No, I bet base game we get is going to be Crit Path, the strongholds that we've been promised, and then the faction missions. I don't think we're getting a Cataclysm.
Is coming after that, because that's just going to be in free play, and that's just something they activate on the servers for a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to work up through all this stuff to the Cataclysm. I don't think there's going to be one in the original game.
Yeah.
Is that do you think that's just to give people time to level up to get to 30 and to get a javelin strong enough to do the content?
I
Build
think
the
so.
hype maybe, and just to build the hype. I think that their plan is that we have enough on our plate. We'll even add free play to that, because there's a lot that you can do in free play with world events and all that stuff there. So I bet there's enough there to keep us going until the Cataclysm gets ready to drop. And then with unlocking Grandmasters 1, 2, and 3, I don't think we can go back and replay crit missions.
You can if you
Can
just do quick play. You can join people on missions. You don't get to
Okay.
choose what they are, but you'll be able to play through them again to help.
But you
people
can't
out.
increase that level for just a difficulty increase, right?
No,
You
like
can't,
you can't
say
choose-
I want to
mean,
do the crit path on Grandmaster 2.
Yeah, no, I mean, because nobody would be doing that because they'd have to play them for the first time. So like you could just do them on hard or whatever to help people out. But I think
Right.
like Mark Dara, he said Cataclysms basically they're going to be difficult and you're going to want to go through them multiple times because it's going to give you specific gear that deals with that Cataclysm to help you get through it faster and better. And so that's pretty interesting to me. It's kind of similar to raids in the past where they give you gear that focuses on the challenges of that raid. I also don't like that because, I have to have this gear to get through.
And that's
it.
when everybody starts looking exactly the same.
Yeah, so that's when everyone looks the same. So I don't like that idea.
But we won't look the same in Anthem because it'll most likely be
But
components.
haven't they said that there's not going to be any like event or mission specific loot?
That's what they
'Cause
said, but I
remember
mean,
them
then
saying
they
that.
just said this like last week where he's like, you're gonna want, in interviews he
Could
did
it-
about the Cataclysms where they're like, I mean, they said a lot of things and then changed things, so they're being
Could-
very
could it-
open, but then changing. So
Yeah.
Could it be that like something along the lines of like this loot only drops during cataclysms, that you don't necessarily have to participate in the cataclysm itself, but if the cataclysm is an event that happens, as they seem to be describing it as, like
no, I
maybe
mean, he
that's,
said you
like,
get that from the Cataclysm to help you go through that Cataclysm again to be able to go through it more efficiently. So that's where I was concerned with it. I'm like, well, why would I don't want that, So
I mean, we definitely want to get something that shows that yes, I participated in the Act 1 Cataclysm. That will reflect that yes, you were there day one. Whether that's a weapon, whether that's a cosmetic piece of gear.
A
prefer
banner.
a decal.
It'll be a
Prefer-
banner or a decal.
Decal.
I mean, Devin, are you saying you don't want that just because it drives more people to you have to have this piece of gear in order to complete?
I just don't like it when everybody has to use that piece of gear to get through there. That's just kind of like, I mean, I understand when you need to, if you have to use that gear or that it's better and you don't have to technically use it because you can still get through that content with other gear. But when it forces you, as long as we don't have to look the same, as long as it's components, then that's fine. But I just don't want everybody to be like, oh, look, there's the Ranger. They're all the same Ranger because they're all going into the Cataclysm, and they're using all the gear pieces from the Cataclysm. And so it's like, oh, well, I have to have this. And then with the limited amount of space, it's like, how many pieces are we just going to keep around for the next Cataclysm? And is that going to help us? And so on. And so I want to be able to go in with my personal build, not have to worry about, okay, this gear is specific for the Cataclysm, and have to change the way I play and everything else just to fit that Cataclysm. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's fine that they give you drops, and I expect drops from that stuff in there. But again, is it like JD said, where it's like it's gonna drop anywhere out in the free play? Because everything else drops anywhere. Right now they don't have anything specific. I know, like DF Bunny was saying that they're looking at boss specific drops, but I don't know. It's difficult. I mean, it makes you have to play more, and you could be playing anything and get a legendary drop or whatever, instead of like, oh, I have to go to this one specific boss and just keep grinding the same boss over and over again to get a piece of loot.
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't be too bad if it wasn't necessarily loot or like stronghold specific loot, but maybe affixes for that stronghold. For example, we know that during the Swarm Mine, the Tyrant Mine, whatever it's called, that stronghold that we ran a bunch. I mean, you come up against acid a lot, and you come up against snipers. Maybe you get weapons that mitigate that damage. I mean, you could use that anywhere, but maybe it's just a small bonus that you could actually say, okay, I'm going to throw this on because there's a bunch of turrets there's a bunch of spiders trying to, put acid on me and pin me to the floor. I mean, maybe that's an option that they could go with. Not so much that, hey, do 25% more damage to a swarm tyrant, because those are kind of things that you're like, okay, this is the only time I'm ever going to use this. Everyone has to have it to complete the stronghold in the better time. So, I mean, I think there are ways that they can do it.
Rusted makes a good point in the chat. When you're trying to find a group, that becomes a piece of, do you have this piece of equipment? Oh, you don't? Sorry, we're not going to let you play with us then.
And that's been a big problem in the past for other games.
Yeah.
Not to mention there's the added element of the fact that, like, one of the reasons why I like their approach, or why I liked Anthem's original approach to this, like just having anything kind of gear drop at any like mission or whatever, like any kind of event, is because like it allows you to grind while still having a good amount of mission variety and not getting burnt out on the same thing. I remember like to keep playing the same raid over and over again, to keep playing the same strike mission over and over again, no matter how fun it was. Like, I mean, I make some really good chicken curry, but I ate that for like 3 weeks in a row and I got really tired of it. Doesn't matter how good it is. Doesn't matter how good it is. You will get tired of it if you have to keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Very true. No more curry. All right, so moving on, because I mean that's the roadmap. We know that there's going to be guilds system going on. Real quick, if you guys were EA and in 7 days you were going to put out, one of your biggest titles of the year, do you release a brand new IP that no one's ever heard about and no one's ever talked about, like 2 weeks before, or do you just hold that off until maybe after Anthem releases? Because EA, Respawn Entertainment, is it Respawn Entertainment or just Respawn?
Just Respawn.
Pretty sure it's just Respawn. So Respawn released Apex Legends 3 days ago. This was something that there was there's a couple rumors about it leading up to the launch, but then a bunch of influencers flew over to, I don't even know where they went, but they went out to EA somewhere and they got to play Apex Legends. It is another battle royale first-person shooter brought to you by the people that made Titanfall, which I had a lot of fun playing Titanfall. I really enjoyed those games. They were fun. So they shadow dropped Apex, and that game is out. It's already hit over 10 million users. Do you guys think this cannibalizes like the player base for Anthem, or are we talking about two completely different groups of players here?
Well, it might be the same groups of players, but I think the draw is different to each.
I mean, there's gonna be draws to each, but it's also overlapping. Like somebody who wants to play the game, maybe also like, oh, I'll play Anthem, but now it's like, well, why buy Anthem? I'm really enjoying Apex and it's free, and I'll just keep playing that, because the battle royale games are super popular. And I understand, they want to get the stuff out there, but it's just bad timing. Honestly, it's like they tried to do this in the past with Titanfall 2, and they just sent it out to its death. Put it in between Call of Duty and Battlefield, and then it was just like,
Do it again.
And it was such a good game.
Yeah, it was.
Do it again.
It was a great game.
Such a good game. It was a great campaign.
And
I played.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JD.
We all just kind of stopped talking at once. We just kind of like,
because you were still talking, so we stopped.
Yeah. No. So I'm kind of on kind of in a similar boat to Steven, where I played the first Titanfall. I love Titanfall. I played Titanfall 2. Love Titanfall 2. It doesn't sound all that promising to me, because it from what I've heard, I haven't played for myself. I plan to probably this weekend. But like, it's Titanfall, but without the Titans, which was the main draw of the franchise. It doesn't have a lot of the same free running features, which was again another draw of that franchise. And like, I don't know why they felt they need to release it now. I do think it is two very different markets, Anthem and Apex Legends, because like the whole thing's that they're not cashing in on the battle royale craze with Anthem right now. And there are gamers like me who do not like battle royale. I think I hope it's a fad. I hope it passes eventually, but I've tried battle royale games. I don't like them. And honestly, when people were discussing like maybe having a battle royale mode in Anthem just because battle royale, it sounded so stupid to me. So I feel like this is for different markets, but I do think that this could have some impact.
So, some quick thoughts. Battle Royale's here to stay. I mean, we've been iterating on deathmatch for how long? Since Quake, since Doom
Yeah,
came out,
long time.
1,000 years ago, and we've been iterating on that formula for a long time. Royale came out, and Battle Royale's been out for a while, and it was just popularized by PUBG. There was Arma before, and PUBG really hit a mark, and then Epic pivoted, a game that was not doing very well, and it created this huge juggernaut that is actually making, companies like Twitter and Instagram
Millions of dollars.
like say that, our stock is dropping because of the people that are playing Fortnite aren't spending time on our platform. So it's huge. So people are going to jump on and they're going to try to get that. I think Apex is a really fun game. I think of all the battle royales, it controls the best, and I think
yeah.
I've had the most fun playing it. It's super smooth. It's super polished. PUBG is not. PUBG is like full of jank, and Fortnite is just not for me. Like the building aspect of Fortnite is just something that I don't enjoy. I mean, it's a popular game for a reason, and that fad is just going to keep going and going until someone figures out the next thing to do, because putting 100 people into a match is the next evolution of having 4-on-4, Halo battles. I'm guessing Halo's going to have one. If they don't, I'll be super surprised if Halo Infinite does not have a battle royale mode. But I think one of the nice things that it will do, it's going to bring a ton of people into the Origins store
Mm-hmm.
right now, with Anthem being put right next to Apex because they both start with A. Coincidence or not, I don't know. But there's going to be a lot of people that say, you know what, Apex is free. Every time I pop in here, I see this Anthem thing. A lot of people that might, I don't know. I don't know if the people that play Apex are going to be people that subscribe to Anthem Origin Premiere or whatever. But there's going to be exposure there, and maybe they'll drop on there. It's going to build a friends list. So when people do play Anthem, they're already going to have a friends list because they played Apex. And I don't know exactly what it's going to do. I think there is a Venn diagram of people that only play Apex, people in the middle that play both, and then people on the other side that only play Anthem. But I think if EA is doing good, more likely that BioWare gets more money to keep doing what they're doing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Yeah.
very interesting topic. I thought it was interesting. It's a fun game. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, will I play a ton of it? Probably not, just because battle royales aren't my thing.
I'll play it
But I
till
mean, it's
Anthem
fun.
comes out. And then move on. I mean, they talked about a lot of things. It's not, all the big publishers, third-party publishers, had a rough year, and they're, all of them underperformed. Even, with Rockstar selling 23 million copies of Red Dead Redemption 2, it was underperforming. But the one good thing that EA did talk about is, they're kind of, with all the momentum and everything they're seeing for Anthem, they're expecting 5 to 6 million copies being sold by March, end of March. So that goes along with my prediction. They're going to make a lot of money, hopefully, and with the microtransactions. So I'm excited if they're seeing all this interest, and if it does drive interest, I hope that it will. But it's definitely interesting, and it can't. I think it was bad timing, but also good timing for me, because I'm like, well, what am I going to play until next week? And I'm like, oh, here's a free game. It's fun to play.
Yeah, you don't have a billion games in your backlog
I have
that you could be
I have
playing.
so many backlog games, but I'm just like, I'm not interested in it because
I guess I
those
need
are
a new
from
one.
like forever ago, and so I'm like, who cares?
This thing is from like January. Why do I still have it?
Yeah.
I do feel like that if Apex makes a lot of money off of their microtransactions or their loot boxes, I do feel like if they make a lot of money off of that, it'll take some of the pressure off of Anthem to make it to be as predatory with microtransactions. I mean, there's no ton. People could get really, really greedy and want to just do both and like have them both be crazy. But I really hope that this provides BioWare with some breathing room to not have to put in ridiculous prices, because like if Apex is such a hit, maybe that won't be as necessary for any kind of microtransactions in Anthem. So
Well, I mean, you can kind of look at that and see the prices for skins and different things, and how much money you have to spend in the real world to buy those things, and we still don't know, what it's going to be like in Anthem. And I mean, I was having a good time in Apex, so I was like, well, I'll throw them some money, and I bought like the Founders Edition, which comes with couple skins and stuff. It was like $26. I was like, hey, $26. It's I've played it 4 or 5 hours. It's cheaper than going to a movie, and I've had more experience in it. So
you always go back to that example.
Yeah,
well,
well, I
it's
mean,
cheaper than buying a movie. You haven't been to a movie in a while, have you?
No, well, I was in a
tickets are-
movie. I went to 3 movies in like 2 weeks, in the last 2 weeks of December.
Tickets are $52. Popcorn's $112.
But no, it's all about entertainment, right? What you're willing to pay for that entertainment. And so movies is always like a go-to because people are like, oh, let's go to the movies, and it's like
It's
that's
set the
$40
standard.
for a couple hours, So and then you're paying $60 for a game that you put in thousands of hours, but people are still upset and saying there's not enough content or not enough, this and that. And it's like you spent 80 hours for $60, less than $1 per hour,
Yeah, but I don't get to control Tom Cruise on the big screen. I don't get
you're
to
doing
say,
it
no,
wrong,
don't
then."
go in that room.
You're doing it wrong.
Pretty soon, I'm sure that's the way movies will go. It'll be
Choose your own adventure.
I mean, you can go watch Bandersnatch on Netflix, and that's a choose your own adventure. So anyway, we're going to move on because we're already at an hour and we've got a lot to go over. So real quick, Polygon, they're awesome investigative journalism here. Polygon puts out an article, 19 changes from the demo to the live game. So a lot of people have been asking what's fixed, what isn't. So real quick, voice chat with strangers will be on by default. A lot of people were complaining that they couldn't talk to anyone because everyone had their things set to off. There's probably a
reason for that. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, so I was playing Apex, and I had 2 reasons why I turned my mic off automatically. And that's probably not going to change for me. So
Nice.
Squad locations and status will be easy to find because we're going to get that widget. Walking around Fort Tarsus will be faster. Yes, we know. They've told us that was turned off during the demo for whatever reason, so that's going to be on. Frame rate will be fixed for console players. Promote to leader will be available for squads. So this is something that's super important, I think. You need to be able to promote someone. If you're the leader and you got to bounce, you got to be able to promote the person that you want. So that you don't just leave the game and everyone gets pulled out with you. So inscriptions will display correctly rather than 0%. Primer and detonator abilities.
Hard-hitting journalism there. I wonder how they cracked them on that one.
That's pretty tough questions. Primer and detonator abilities will be more clear. Oh, also primer and detonator abilities. There are abilities that are neither primer nor detonator for each javelin. And I was wondering, why would you take this over something that you can prime and detonate? Those abilities that don't have the primer detonator affix actually deal way more damage. So if you're running solo, you probably want to throw those things on because you're going to be doing way more DPS with those on. Okay,
right. And
it'll
it makes
be
sense.
easier. It does, and then they say it'll be easier to see underwater. Probably going to increase the light, which will be awesome. Inscriptions will be for the correct javelin each time. Good job, Polygon. One of the new javelins will be unlocked after the game's tutorial. And then, at number 10, I just kind of gave up. I was like, seriously?
Yeah, this is already
Changes from demo to live game? It's like, come on. Come on, son. Weapon and ability balance has changed. Okay, they're probably going to make the rocket launcher a little less powerful. I mean, but this is like the thing that we didn't want to happen, right? Don't nerf us. We wanna have that super heroic experience of pulling out the rocket launcher sniper rifle that can just own face.
But the problem was with that though, when I was playing with Phaedron, one of the people from our community, is like, oh, he deleted those, scrapped them, and then he could never find them again. And he's like, oh, I really need that, because we're trying to push faster times through the stronghold. Then it became, okay, well, if you're not using this weapon, you're not going to be pushing it harder because everything else all the other snipers were worthless. They were doing, less than a quarter of the damage. And so it really is unbalanced, but at the same time, they instead of nerfing super hard, they need to increase, what the other weapons do because we were already talking about, weapons are really secondary, they're really weak, and they don't do a lot of the damage that they should do for a world like this. And if you're just depending all on your abilities, then you're missing out. I mean, it's maybe that's why, like Mike said, they're not really putting much focus on the guns because they're not, and so they're not as important. So
Good
they're
job,
like,
Devin.
we're just
If it's
not
good,
going to
it's
put.
good.
Yeah, if it's good, it's good. All right. If it's not meant to be good, then we're not going to focus on it.
All right, Mike, you take over. I got to be right back.
Alrighty, we are on number 12 of the 19 things that Polygon has broken to us that will be changed from demo to live game. Crafting items and materials won't be purchasable for real money. And I guess I didn't know that they were going to be. I didn't know that was
I thought
even a.
Mark Dara said there was going to be a small amount that you could purchase with real money, but they've changed that, I guess. So.
Okay, well, good, because I don't think I would have done that anyway. Game performance will be improved. I'm going to let that one hit for a second.
Are you for real? It's going to
Wait,
be
Mike, are you saying that
Will
the
be
full
improved.
launch version of the game will be better than the demo?
Hopefully,
that could have been considered a beta?
Hopefully we won't have infinite loading screens. Hopefully sound won't kick out, but you never know. Players won't be able to hold onto echoes indefinitely, which is good because you actually experienced that during a stronghold mission, right?
Yeah.
Somebody had to leave who had an echo, and then it broke the experience.
Yeah, they just left. So they had the echo, and they never got back to me. I was like, "Have you seen this bug before?" But
nice.
They had the echo, and then they quit or got booted or something, and the echo never came back. So we all had to quit and couldn't continue on with the stronghold. But I think that it's also good because some people just have it and they're just stupid, or they're like, "Oh, I have the." That's one thing that Ben's like, "Oh, we need to work on." That people know that they have this. So that, because there's oftentimes when I was doing the stronghold with just random people, and they would grab one of the echoes or whatever, and they don't even know they have it, and they're just running around. We're all standing there waiting for them, and they're just shooting.
Because there's no animation, there's sound, there's
nothing that tells you that
no
you
indicator.
Have it.
Yeah, that you
so
have.
I think they're working on that for sure.
Screen size can be adjusted.
I think that's specifically for console versions because the area, gets cut off on some TVs. Like there's some games on my TV that cut off stuff because I can't adjust the size or the screen bounds, and so I'm just like, well, there's nothing I can do about that.
Good. The launch bay will be a new social hub. All cosmetics are earnable with in-game currency. Enemies.
I know Polygon was like, these are changes from the demo to the live game. These weren't changes. This wasn't even like.
This was a bug report.
Anyway.
Enemies shouldn't evaporate anymore.
I mean, they're still going to do that. They just adjusted it, for the amount of time.
You mean, no, I think they were talking about when you actually get up to an enemy that you're about to shoot and it just completely disappears.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing. That was just their however they had it set. Like Mike Gamble was saying, the way it was set, for when people were fighting people, and then when it would disappear to save memory and everything else, they've adjusted that so it's not as, I guess, aggressive, in the game where it just wipes and clears them out,
So you're saying it'll still happen, just not at the same scale?
Yeah, it'll still happen, but they're trying to make it so it's not as bad, So if you're fighting people, they shouldn't just disappear as easily. But because it's, especially in free play, when you're going around, you can't be loading everything all the time, and so they have to adjust that, and especially once you have the full map, hopefully they'll be able to adjust that better when people are in different zones if they're not all together. And it shouldn't be an issue, hopefully.
Makes sense. And then number 19 from Polygon, factions to work for. Again, isn't this is all stuff we knew was coming. So there you go.
They got to have something for people to click on.
Got to have something.
It's true. And they'll make that stuff. Hey, did you guys know we have something for people to click on also? Did you know that we are actually sponsored by Audible? Audible is a great app that you can use to download thousands, like over 144,000 audiobooks onto your iPhone. You can listen to all the latest fiction, sci-fi, murder mystery, hot steamy romance stuff that Mike likes to download. You can get all those books.
That's all one genre.
All one genre? Man,
yeah, there is one artist. One author. One artist
that does the cover for all.
Formerly known
who wrote one story one time, and that's the genre he was put in. The steamy romance, sci-fi, murder mystery. I don't know what else you said.
I'm kind of down for that. But Audible is actually sponsoring our show. So if you go to audibletrial.com/freelancer codex, you will get a free audiobook of your choice to keep for forever. So even if you go on, you subscribe to the service where you get one credit a month to get one audiobook a month, you'll be able to keep that after you cancel it. So you get a free book and you get to keep it forever. So Devon, you actually have a recommendation for a book that you've listened to.
Yeah, so I'm actually finished book 2 just the other day in this series, but the first book is called Genesis First Colony. It's a book by Ken Lazito, and it's pretty cool. It's like set really far in the future, and not really in our time, but they're in the future, and then they're trying to save humanity. So they have basically like most things where they have an ark, and they're sending people to go to another planet to continue humanity over there. And so it talks about the trials that they go through and everything that goes on. It focuses on a group of basically special forces personnel that get basically what do they call it? Not really kidnapped.
Taken without their permission.
I forget the term for it, but
stolen.
Shanghaied.
Body snap.
They call it Shanghaied.
Shanghaied?
Yeah.
Shanghai.
So they were smuggled on there without their knowledge, and they wake up. And so it's pretty cool about all the stuff that they face. And it's sci-fi, military type stuff with, there's not really any steamy romance or anything like that. They do
Dang it,
getting
all
it.
pass.
They
All
do swear a
pass.
little bit, but
Hard pass.
they're kind of 7-8 hour books, on Audible. And when you listen on normal speed, like regular people, unlike Steven. But
Pick that up, you get that book done.
No, man,
in
you
3.5
gotta
hours,
speed
move
that
on to
up.
the
I
next
got
one.
things to do.
Yeah, well, when you're driving for 8 hours, it's not a problem. But it was really good, and I definitely recommend it.
Very
So
cool.
audibletrial.com/freelancer codex, and it actually helps out the show a lot. So if you guys don't have Audible already, go for it and do that. All right. John Warner came out with This is Anthem Series Part 2, all about the end game. I don't know if I got a ton out of this video. I mean, it was really cool to see some of the new javelins and some of the new cosmetics, but other than that, I was just like, okay, we're gonna be here in 7 days. So, I mean, is that just me, or was anyone else just like blown
I
away
think-
by the video and the information that we got?
So I think it has a lot to do with where we are in terms of release. I mean, because we'll be playing in 14 days. In 7 days.
7 days.
We'll be playing in 7 days.
JD
Right?
will be playing in 14 days.
So I think we're to the
Yo.
point now. We're to the point now where we're like, okay, cool, give it just cool. Oh, great, cool. Let's have it now.
I think the problem is they are kind of, I wouldn't say aloof, but when you ask them questions about stuff, they're like, they're kind of standoffish on not giving you the whole information. And so it's like, yeah, we've already talked about legendary contracts, strongholds, and they're just now getting into cataclysms. But they're like, okay, well, was there anything else? Like this is your end game stuff. Tell us about it. And it's just like, well, we're just gonna name these things and tell you this is the most difficult and content that we've ever made and that you're gonna go up against. And so it's like, okay, cool. We have the strongholds, which we've experienced if you played the demos, and then the cataclysms, which are supposed to be really cool, similar in length. They said strongholds are supposed to take 30 to 45 minutes, yet our guys could, do it in 13 minutes. But
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to go through and see what the cataclysms, really do. And I just think it was just giving you the information, but it was all information we already knew. They could have just confirmed it in a tweet and be like, "This is what in-game content is."
All right,
Yeah.
so it wasn't just me.
Well, but the
Anyone in
video
chat blown away?
the video itself was good. John did a great job. It's cool to hear him narrating.
Yeah.
It was a good video. If you
We didn't
don't
need to
listen,
wait 2 weeks
Yeah.
for it.
yeah, if you don't listen to the Freelancer Codex podcast, then it would have caught you up on all that stuff that was in the video. But since everybody probably listens to us, that was all old
Thousands
news
of
for them. So yeah, the tens of people.
Yeah.
The tens of people.
The presentation was definitely there. It was a good looking video, just like the first part. It just didn't hold as many surprises as the first part. These were all things that we mostly knew. The only new bit of information was the fact that they're called cataclysms,
That a Shaper Storm.
or yeah, instead of Shaper Storms, which I feel like a Shaper Storm is probably some type of cataclysm.
They said
I mean-
there's cataclysms can be stormy, but they don't have to be. Like Shaper Storms evolved into something bigger than just what a Shaper Storm was originally going to be, so they called them cataclysms. And so, because I thought, it was weird, they're not calling them Shaper Storms, but when you log in and it's like, there's a storm brewing or whatever, And so
Yeah.
there's still storms, but like Mike Gamble said on Twitter,
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't necessarily have to be a storm to be a cataclysm. It can just be an event or things that you have to go check out and see, and it spawns, all kinds of crazy enemies. It doesn't have to be a storm and shooting
Yeah.
meteors down at you, which was really cool. Mike and I saw that.
That was cool.
Almost got hit by those.
That was
That-
pretty
That was
wicked.
cool.
I actually did not even get to log in during that time, unfortunately.
Oh.
All right, so we're going to move on from that video. They didn't say that there was going to be a part 3, so is that just it?
I think that's
There's
it.
just
There's
this
going to be
is
a
Anthem
live
in 2
stream next
parts?
week. They also said there was going to be an Ask Me Almost Anything about Anthem today, but
There was one today. It
Was
happened
there?
for it happened for about 20 minutes.
a video?
Yeah.
And no, it wasn't a video.
No, not a video.
It was on
It was
Twitter
just
or something.
Twitter asked me anything.
No.
It happened for 20 minutes, and they answered a lot of questions that they've already answered before. Like, looking through it, I
When
didn't
does
pick
the
out
game come
anything
out?
that we did not know. Yeah, that was actually a question that was asked and
Oh,
answered
okay.
by Mark Dare. Okay,
Is there crossplay?
so real quick, I'm going to go through
Sorry.
this. So we got a letter. It was more of a novel, really, from a listener of the show. Rico number 1 wrote, and I'm going to paraphrase a lot of this. So Rico is from Germany, not a native English speaker. So I put his points into a form that we could talk about. And he was saying that he's played the games for a really long time. He's played WoW. He's done all these online games. So, and he had some suggestions that he really wanted people to hear and some points about him. So I wanted to break down a couple of the points that I think were really good. There are some other points that I think they've already addressed that we know that are going to happen, but things that I want you guys to weigh in on also. So one of the things that Rico said is that he really thinks and believes that this game should have a mini map. And I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. So there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, there is a right or wrong answer, but I want to hear what your guys' answer is on this. Do we need a mini map? Devon.
It doesn't matter to me if there is. I mean,
That's the wrong answer.
I'm not
I'm just kidding.
I'm not
just
going
kidding.
to use it. I think it's more challenging when there's not a mini map. I don't need it to show me where the loot is and stuff. I mean, I think the icons and everything they have in there to show you the loot, it appears through all the geometry and everything else. So if you just take a second and look, use your eyeballs, in game and in real world, you can see that there is loot available for you. And so I don't need a mini map. Well, there it is. It's
I
fine if
think-
it's there, but I don't need it.
I think that the way flight works is that having a mini map isn't really useful if you're flying. I mean, you're moving over terrain so fast that what is it really doing for you? Like in playing Diablo 3, they have a mini map, but you use it because at some point in that game, all you're really doing is navigating by the mini map.
Like, how do I
because you're
get
just
out
going
of this
through so
level?
much.
Mhm.
Right, and that's really the only reason you use it for, unless there's a legendary that dropped and you didn't hear the giant sound that a legendary dropped on the ground. I mean, that's fine, but I mean, like mini maps and first-person shooters, like they make total sense. Like if you're playing PvP, yes, mini map is a necessity. I don't think it's a necessity in a third-person shooter. JD, do you have mini map woes?
Well, first of all, to Rico, wie geht's Ihnen? Danke fürs Zuhören. Or
Shouldn't
is that
swear at
right?
people, JD. All right.
Zuhören. Danke fürs Zuhören. But for people that don't speak German, I'm just saying, hey, what's up? Thank you for listening. But because
Excellent.
ich spreche Deutsch. But yeah, I like mini maps. I feel are present in a lot of games. And they don't always show enemies and loot. I don't feel like they need to be in third-person shooters. I like it when they are, but usually it's like they don't really have much information aside from like just where you're going. So if it's like something like you want to see loot or anything else, like it should be like an unlockable ability. Like in Call of Duty, it was like a thing you got after a certain kill streak. You had like the UAV that like gave you like the radar and stuff like that. And then Warframe, it's like an ability that you have to like add on to something to like see like where enemies and loot is on the map. Like I've never seen a mini map that just has all those things off like at the very beginning. It's something like it's a perk you have to unlock usually.
All right, Mike, you didn't write anything in here, so I assume that you don't care that map?
I didn't write anything on anything because I got home from soccer practice late.
I understand.
My thought on this.
9. No, you don't talk. You don't write. You don't talk.
My thought on this is that I don't need a mini map in Anthem, but I would like, the only thing that I would add location wise was if at the bottom of the screen it would tell me what region I'm in, so that when someone jumps in with me, I could say, "Oh, I'm at Tarsus Falls."
Instead of just pushing the back button to look at the map.
Well, it could be that's kind of a process. I understand what you're saying, Devon, but if I have it right there on screen, I can just say I'm on Tarsus Falls.
Okay.
Well, I also think that the multiplayer widget that they have will probably show that and
be a
help
lot
with
better.
that also.
I think so,
But I think
all
it,
those changes have been talked about that they were going to do. So,
but I think you're right. I think it would be cool if underneath the compass it said what area you were in. That way you can familiarize yourself with the layout of Bastion without having to hit the back button every time. I think that would be a pretty easy thing to do. And I mean, even in Destiny, when you're crossing over areas, it pops it up and it tells you, hey, you're crossing over.
Well, and it does do
over
that
Jordan,
in Anthem also. It does do that in Anthem, but I would, it would
stay there and tell you.
Yeah, I would like it to stay there, so that when I jump in with someone, I can ask them where they are without having to check the minimap. Not the minimap, but without having to go out of game.
Next thing Rico says, he says there should be waypoints. And I think we all agreed that there should be waypoints, right? This is something that said they're considering, if not
you mean
working
like
on.
Markers?
Yes, like, hey, I'm going to put a waypoint right here. Hey, let's all fly over here.
Oh, okay. You see, I was interpreting that as like waypoints in the mission where it tells you to go. I'm like, those are already in the game. I don't understand.
Oh no.
But his are like markers to set on the map. Like, yeah, so that for sure needs to be in there, because I had tried to do that so many times during the demos where I'm like, oh, we're gonna go over here, and like, oh, I can't put a marker down to do anything to show you where we're gonna go. So you need to just figure out by my description.
Go to that big rock. It's got the tree on it.
All right, next up is text chat. We have talked about text chat before. It is not something that I use, but it's not something I'm ever going to use. I just don't use text chat. I just talk with the people that I actually want to play the game with. Very rarely will I actually go on and, find someone else that's new in whatever the new social space is called to go and talk to them. So I know this is something I won't use, but I think this is something that needs to be in the game for people with disabilities.
Yeah.
That either, that's their only way of communicating. And if that text chat is not in here, they can't really communicate at all. So it needs to be in there. I think there's, I'm not a programmer. It's not my job to figure out how to put it in, but lots of games do it. Lots of games have it. Apex launched with it. So, that's all I'm saying. It needs to be in the game.
A lot of people are freaking out. They're like, oh, Apex had it. How come you don't have it? And it's like, they've talked about it many times. They're working on it. It's hard to implement. It's not just something that you can easily implement, but I thought it was pretty cool. They talked about it on Twitter. It was kind of a big thing on Monday when Apex came out and people were kind of trashing on Anthem for not having it. And one of the lead guys over at Xbox who's over, text to chat, that stuff. He's like,
accessibility.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I would love to talk with you guys and see whatever we can do to help you implement this into your game. And I think that was really cool. Just, one part of the community reaching out to the others who are having trouble, and they're like, hey, we can certainly help you with this. We'd love to talk to you about it. So I thought that was really cool. And hopefully they give them the opportunity to come and help them get it in the game so they can just, move on from this and not have people complaining about it. I know it's important. Yep. It's important to all those people that need it. And while we don't really use it too much, I know there's people out there that definitely need it and use it. And so I hope they can get that in there.
Right. And I think if because, if we don't ask for it, then they won't put it in. So we need the community to ask for it to help out people that actually really need it to be able to communicate. So, or else we're just going to be, they're just going to get asked questions about if, what genders javelins have. So anyway, so then Rico also talked about loot bags. He wants to be able to see what items
you were calling him a loot bag. I thought you were calling him a loot bag, Rico.
Man, Rico, you are such a loot bag. That should be the new term. Anytime you see someone,
you filthy.
I got called a bunch of things playing Apex today, but this is the one I'm going to come back with them. Yeah, it's like, man, you're such a loot bag. Anyway. So, do you guys think it? I mean, none of the weapons that you pick up are identified. I mean, and there is a sense when you push start, you can see the things that you've picked up, or you can see how many.
How many
It's
of
in
them
your,
you picked up?
you have a backpack.
Right. So I don't really think that you need to know that, oh, you picked up a Devastator or you picked up a whatchamacallit, because that kind of makes it, that kind of breaks the flow if you're always going to check those things after every time you pick up a loot drop. So I don't think this is really necessary. I mean, you can see what you're carrying and when you can leave and come back. So
I think this comes from being able to. People are used to being able to swap their builds and everything on the fly.
In game.
What they're doing in game, and Anthem is really different. I think it forces you to be like, okay, we played for a while, we got a lot of loot. Let's go back and see what we got and see if we can change our builds, and adjust, basically regroup and adjust what we have and continue on. I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's the way they've planned it out.
Mhm.
So that's the way it kind of forces you to go back and.
it also doesn't break the flow of the game. Like if you're playing with people, you're in the middle of the battle. Hold on, guys. We're looking at you, Tim, every time. It's like, get out of your menus. Let's play the game that we're playing. Let's focus here.
Yes to what Devon
All right.
So it also means when you go into free play, when you go into these events, I mean, you don't want to go back to the fort every 3 items.
Yeah,
because that'll kill flow too. So you got it. So the game is really geared to being in the world for quite some time. I don't think I ever reached a cap on my backpack.
Well, I mean, you can.
So
It just
I'm
takes
not
up
sure
any
if
of
there
the
is
300
one.
slots, right? That they have in there. And we
Oh, is
saw
that what
people,
it's tied to?
Yeah, it just goes into your 300 slots and starts taking up those spots. And people in our community even posted pictures where like they were over max capacity of the 300. They had like 330, or 330 out of 300. So we're like,
Right.
well, what does that do? And I reached the cap a couple times, but I was just holding on to everything, and not scrapping it. And so I was like, okay, I gotta scrap crap now, so I don't have to worry
So I
about
can
not
more
getting
stuff, yeah.
something.
Exactly. Well, and it's I like it. I don't think we need to see what. Well, no, I don't think. Maybe a differentiation between weapon component and support system, maybe, but then I think that can get into the point where you're
It
like,
does have a weapon. I thought they had, at least in the videos in the past. I'll have to look and see on my videos.
Yeah,
but
it shows you
component
the
versus
parts that you
weapon.
picked up, the organics that you picked up, and the.
well, but I'm talking
We're not
about
calling
the
it.
actual loot. I'm talking about blues and whites and greens that you would pick up from chests.
Yeah,
All the other
it
stuff.
tells you on there, like it says a weapon, I thought, and then
Are you sure?
I'm
We're
pretty
gonna
sure.
have to- we're gonna have to double check that because I think
let's
it
look
just
that up.
showed your. I don't even know what to call them. Just your drops.
Because it
They're
would
not-
say like weapon thing on there. I thought in the past videos it would say that, but
Let's
Yeah.
just play it in 7 days, and then we'll figure it out from there, and then we'll see what it's all about.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so these were a couple of questions that Rico sent in. We just wanted he asked that because he is a German speaker that he felt like his voice wasn't going to be heard by the developers, so we wanted to boost that signal a little. And if you listeners have any questions that you want read on the show or you want discussed, you can write into us at freelancercodex@gmail.com. You can do that. And Mike, you forgot to give your whole Discord plug at the beginning of this thing. So do you want to plug our Discord real quick?
We have Discord.
who did you want to plug from
Thanks,
our?
Mike.
Oh, there's
Bastards.
a lot of people. There's a lot of people I'd like to plug. There's that guy who yelled at me on Apex. There's that other guy
Wow.
that
From our new members, is there anybody you want to give shout outs to? Let me be more specific.
yeah, totally. Go ahead, Steve. While I
So one thing I wanted to do,
Peruse.
I have a pretty large lore
Ah,
section.
Whoa! Hey, hey-o. Family
Okay.
show, Steven. Family show.
I'm gonna
And what are
take a
you
drink of
measuring
water.
with? I don't know.
Bow, chicka,
I-
bow, wow.
That's weird. Okay, so I've got a pretty large lore section. We're already at an hour and 30 minutes.
So big.
So do you guys think we got to? No, I think I'm going to save. No, I'm going to say it now. Okay. So one thing that I really enjoyed about the demo was actually going into the Cortex, because there's a lot of really cool background and backstory that we haven't really talked about or no one's really discussed at all. I mean, I'm sure everyone was just too busy playing the game. I'm sure there's a lot of people that actually read this stuff, but I did a real deep dive into it. There's one section about the ciphers that I really, really enjoyed if no one has read it. So I'll read it real quick and we can kind of discuss what it means for the world of Bastion and what it means for future storylines. All right. So when cipher abilities first appear, Corvus sought to take these individuals for covert purposes. So Corvus is like the FBI, CIA. They're the real shadow organization.
Real
that
loot bags.
They're a bunch of loot bags. Like Tassin is for sure a loot bag. So they developed amplifier technology and created a type of institutional training center called Satomi. The most important and advanced of these is Estrat. I think that's how you say that. The premier Satomi location in Anthem. So I'm guessing this is actually where Faye went to go learn how to be a cipher. We learned this from like the PAX East panel. Catherine Rootsart said that Faye went to the premier college and Owen went to the community college. So later, during the cipher revolution, brought ciphers expanded rights, freedom to choose how their abilities were used, opening a new world of communication between settlements and in the aid of lancers. While javelins were invented long before the cipher phenomenon, the addition of ciphers to operations outside the wall has made all lancers safer and more effective. So in this real quick paragraph that they talk about the cipher revolution, it kind of puts in my mind that, ciphers probably weren't treated great when they were first discovered. They're probably used as, what? How can we exploit this? How can we use this to our advantage?
Weaponized.
And they were probably weaponized, and they didn't have rights because there was a revolution. I don't know if this was a revolution that was fought with weapons or javelins, or if it was fought in the courts or whatever court system that they have in Bastion. But I just thought it was interesting that there was a lot going behind the scenes. Like the ciphers we know today probably aren't what the ciphers were in the beginning. So there's an interview from Negan Dell, who was a cipher, and he says, "What do we see? Everything. Images, words, patterns, feelings. Our memories are deeper in the amplifier than out. It's not just our memories, but any other cipher we connect with, we become one. It makes the outside world a bit frustrating, doesn't it?" And this is something that I didn't even think about. So anytime a cipher connects with another cipher, there's almost like this, they receive the memories of the other cipher they're connecting with. And I was thinking about this. It's like, there's with Corvus going on. I mean, this is almost like what's the movie called with the Jaegers? It's almost like Pacific Rim.
We're drift compatible.
Together. Yeah, all these ciphers are drift compatible. They're all getting all these memories, and it makes it interesting.
We're drift compatible. I know it.
It's a terrible English accent by an Australian. Rusted, I blame you for that one. So it's interesting that all these ciphers, if you connect with a different cipher, you're probably going to transfer information that you might not want to transfer. So, does Corvus use that to their advantage? Is that something that's going to play a role that, the monitor is going to be able to get information by connecting? Because I'm guessing the monitor is a cipher also, just because that's my speculation. All right, so we have the earliest story of a cipher in the Cortex. You guys are ready for this? This is pretty interesting.
Ready.
So it was not long after the Cataclysm that the engineer's daughter developed strange new abilities. She could see faraway things or talk directly into another's mind. Word of her gift spread. Soon, Arcanist arrived and presented her with a bold experiment to help them test a device that would amplify her gift. It started with great success, but eventually met with failure. The girl's mind ventured too far from her body and became lost to the music of the Anthem of Creation. To this day, ciphers swear they glimpsed the engineer's daughter while in the amplifier. The first cipher, they say, watches over those who travel without moving, guiding them back to where she can never return.
Wow.
So this is the story of the first cipher. And it made me think, it's like, if you were the first person to have these abilities, like what would those people do to you? How would they react to someone that can, I'm starting to see things, I can see into this person's mind. In our day and age, you think of, witch hunts. Whenever someone, quote unquote, started to show
she's a witch. Burn her. She turned
but it seems
into
like
a newt.
But it seems like the people in Bastion were actually like, okay, how do we use this? I mean, and it might be completely different because Bastion's filled with all these Shaper relics that crazy things happen. People get split into 3 different personalities. This might be something that's
Spoiler.
pretty tame in the long run.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert if you haven't played the
It's
open
too
demo.
late
I'm
now.
sure that might happen. So, I mean, some really cool, interesting stuff. I mean, is this something that, if our cipher is in the chair too long, is there a possibility that they get lost? Is this going to become a story beat in the future where Faye doesn't want to disconnect from the chair, and you run the risk of her being lost into the Anthem of creation forever?
The song
So
of
really
the
cool
Anthem
stuff.
too much for your cipher?
Yeah, exactly. So
Especially imagine if you have like a kind of plot line like later down the road where like if the ciphers like all of a sudden one day decided to just like create their own plan and like go against like any established group, who would be the wiser? The only other people who would be able to know, like they could communicate their plans without telling anybody, and any cipher who connected them would be immediately aware of it, like all the intricacies and such. They could very easily stage any kind of coup or revolution if they wanted to, and it would leave us without communications. Like,
I mean, if you become dependent on the technology of the communications between the settlements, and then all of a sudden is gone, what kind of breakdowns do you begin to have? Javelins going out are a lot safer because of the ciphers, because they're able to do that calculus or trigonometry in their head to show, hey, your grenade's going to go this far, dummy. You should probably throw it, a little bit harder. So without that, like you said, JD, I mean, that whole thing kind of breaks down. So,
yeah.
I mean, I guess, pay your ciphers well. Tip your ciphers, people. It's going to be important. So, guys, I think we have exhausted all topics. Well, we haven't exhausted all topics, but we've exhausted our voices for episode 72 of the Freelancer Codex podcast. And one last thing, we're going to change up our outro. I can't even talk now. The Anthem of Creation's calling me. So this is another thing that you can find in the Cortex, and this is actually under the Freelancer. So I think this is going to be the thing that we read to end the show on. So Mike, I want you to give us the first reading. This is your first run through at the end.
Valor to serve the people, regardless of their situation.
Station.
Valor to serve the
Done
people, regardless of their station. Courage to bring silence when the anthem sings. Faith to keep my word and the word of my brethren. Trust that the free answer when called. Strong alone, stronger together.
There you go. Strong alone, stronger together.
We'll have to
I mean, your
tweak that
reading
a
wasn't
little
the
bit.
best, but
It was pretty good. Trust
It was
that
a little
the free answer
dramatic.
when
5th
called.
grade level?
Yeah,
What
that
level?
that fourth
the
line.
free
The fourth line is kind
answer
of,
when called.
and then that one is whatever. You know what? I still like there's a Shaper Storm on the horizon, and I'll see
there's
you.
a cataclysm on the horizon.
Yeah, well, Shaper Storm is better because it's alliteration.
We've made it this far. Why mess with why fix what ain't broken?
We
I
have
think
to
it's
evolve. Right?
Pretty sure it's broken. I like it, Steve. I like it.
Lots of exciting stuff coming up.
And you know
Let's
what?
talk
In
about it
7
next week.
days, when we're all playing Anthem, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited.
It'll be a
I've got-
short podcast next week.
It will be a regular length podcast, and Devon will have his full
I'll be
attention
like, what?
onto our show because you'll be done with the crypt. You'll be done with the crypt path already. It opens
I
at
doubt
3.
I'll be able to get it done.
It opens at 3. We record at 9. Come on.
Shut up, Owen.
What's your name, darling?